When it comes to memories of Mercer Street, you get very different and varying stories, and it all depends on the years you grew up here. In my special report, Princeton Renaissance from Vacant to Vibrant, we take a look at Mercer Street's journey from the hustling and bustling beginnings to a period of stagnation and the grassroots group of businesses that have brought about its revitalization. Longtime residents of Princeton will tell you, in their youth, Mercer Street was the place to be.
When you went to town for the day and done what you need to do before you went home, yes.
We met up with local historian LOIS Miller at the Mercer County Historical Society, which sits in one of the oldest homes in Princeton.
When I was a child, and we came to town, and we went to several of the stores that were on Mercer Street, and nearly every building was filled with something different. The streets were full. In the video that I had of the street, you could see the people. I mean, they were just up and down. That's the way it was every Saturday. My grandmother, they used to come to town with a Model T and set up in the middle of the town and sell their vegetables from the garden. Food stores. There was Western Auto, Santon's, Leggett's, G.C. Murphy. When you went there, was 3 floors. You could find anything you wanted, from fish to boots.
Lori McKinney is the owner of the Riff Raff Arts Collective.
Sometimes people will say, well, I don't know about all this new creative stuff that's happening. Why can't it be like it used to be? Or I remember shopping here, but what about all these artists and musicians and this new stuff? But that's not new. There are artists and musicians and writers, potters and painters that have inhabited these buildings for the century.
People didn't buy things then like that we have nowadays. We have too much choice in things, but if you needed material to make your own children's clothes, then you went to a certain store.
And you did not just come to Mercer Street to shop.
A bunch of us could remember cruising the Strip, and that was social media for us. We didn't have cell phones, we didn't have any of that stuff, but we got a chance to see each other on a Friday and Saturday night in a very social setting, and it brought people downtown.
Oh yeah, if you had a new DeSoto, you were going down the street. Honey, you were going to show that car off,
But as residents recall, somewhere along the line, Mercer Street shifted gears.
They had fires in some of the buildings. We lost some of the buildings. Some disrepair had to be torn down. It's sad for me as a historian to see any building go down.
We had a negative element here. We had some drug issues, some prostitution issues.
However, as new businesses arrive, these champions of Mercer Street are seeing a positive shift.
If you have something that someone is looking for, or something someone likes, people will go back and visit, stuff like that.
And over time, I think the community kept coming downtown. They wanted to see more. Well, as they kept coming downtown, that negative element gradually moved itself out.
That's the main drag right there. The main drag ain't on Stafford Drive, the main Oakville Road, it's Mercer Street.
Yeah, music and art are vehicles for change, and we can use it to impact the world around us.
Lori McKinney is impacting the world of Mercer Street. She was one of the first businesses to set up shop under the Princeton Renaissance Project.
Interesting, back when I was a kid growing up around here, driving down Mercer Street, I never even looked up. I just kind of had my head in the zone and never really pondered, downtown. Downtown wasn't really a part of my life growing up here in the 90s. And after I had traveled and become so enamored with life and the culture in Europe and, seeing all this beautiful architecture, and once I was home, I remember driving down Mercer Street and something clicked.
But that dream did not come without some heavy lifting.
There was about 80% vacancy on Mercer Street at that time. 2006 was when we were starting to look. This building was a diamond in the rough, but I didn't see it at first. I just saw a rundown building. It was a mess. It was not just an eyesore. It was kind of shrouded, and there was just negative energy. We climbed the stairs and entered into this room, and I was like, wow. I had no idea that a space like this existed here in downtown Princeton. I saw the wood floors and I saw a dance studio. And Robert said, this is a theater.
Mix the vision with some elbow grease from Lori's dad and her husband, Robert. The venue is home to vocal, instrumental, and poetic performances.
It's always an opportunity to get a little bit of critiquing. It's just a chance for me to present my new music and do it in a space that's not super judgmental.
Many of the artists showcased here get their artistic bearings from Stages Music School, run by Lori's sister, Melissa McKinney.
And I see the kids on the stage and watch them grow up. You know, I've seen them from toddlers with guitars bigger than them to, you know, rock stars that are like traveling the East Coast.
Some of these artists have made their way onto the national stage, but it all started here, in the heart of Mercer County.
Learn something new and listen to different music, because some of the stuff is not stuff that I would listen to on my own usually. So it's definitely helped me grow as an artist, and it's made me appreciate community more, because this community is very close-knit and they're very supportive of everything that you do. And
while the sounds from the room upstairs are luring ears to Mercer Street, there is something brewing that's keeping foot traffic here as well.
It's just a breath of fresh air to have that awesome coffee shop, because it has been the glue. And it's funny, things accelerated when the coffee shop got here because of the connectivity and because of the caffeine.
If you physically change the environment, the culture of the environment will change with it.
To create that change, Greg Puckett with the nonprofit Community Connections says these things were necessary.
Number one was a coffee shop. You know, it's a gathering place. It's somewhere where people can come and get a good cup of joe and just enjoy. And the other was a microbrewery. We said, you know, that's going to change the dynamic. You know, this is not a bar.
This building came open about 1.5 years ago, so we renovated it. Took about 10.5 months. I adopted a racing greyhound, and that's where the name came from.
Matt BARNETT is the owner of Sophisticated Hound Brewing Company, and it has been open just over a year.
We do everything by hand. We weigh by hand, we put water in by hand. You call it babysitting pretty much.
His passion for brew resonates with customers.
They find it really neat to be able to come into town and find something like this away from the chain restaurants. And we tell people, you know, that are traveling all the time, that when you get off of 77, just don't stop at 77. Come into the town and explore.
The whole purpose of this was to allow, when people come through the door, for them to feel like they're part of it. Even if it's your first time in here, we want you to leave with a smile on your face.
Explore long enough and you'll find many of these small businesses work in tandem.
We do what's called collaboration with a lot of our businesses. For example, the bee store that's getting ready to go in across the street, we get a lot of our honey for our beers from him.
So I started keeping bees about 6 years ago. I've always had a passion to keep them and just to learn about them. You know, it's a really tough hobby, but if you can kind of get through the tough times, it's really awesome and rewarding.
The hobby is now a business.
We found this building for a really good price and it was in really bad shape. And I was like, man, I'd love to have that store. And I brought my wife in and the ceilings were really tall and it was just old, you know, and we knew that it had history on Mercer Street. And we knew that we wanted to save it.
For Will and his wife, it is now blossoming into more than expected.
We were like, holy cow, what are we going to do with the other, 2,000 square feet of this building? And then we kind of just, I convinced my wife little by little to keep adding more and more. We want to offer people local products. We're working with the vocational school and the FFA there, people all around the state to bring in products from West Virginia. Kind of like an old general store. We're going to sell all different types of honey, meat, produce, ice cream, of course, and then all the bee supplies, that are required to keep bees. So.
He says his neighbors have been extremely helpful.
Yeah, Lori's been a staple to trying to get it all put together,
A lot of people remember, they get nostalgic for the past. They think about the good old days on Mercer Street, and I imagine that a couple of decades from now, there's going to be a lot of nostalgia for this time period, and this is like the new good old days.
Someone recently told me the only way we can grow as a community is if we appreciate what we have. So hopefully you like something you saw there. You'll support local and pour into it. After all, a flower only blooms if you nourish it.